In today's video, I'm going to answer your best questions. What's up, everybody? It's your host here, Cristo from Stud City. It's Wednesday, and that means we have a new Stud City Unhinged, where I answer your questions from last Wednesday's video in an AMA. So, drop your best questions for next week if I don't answer them in today's video. And let's jump straight on into it. The first question here is coming from Dan Black on Leadership. He says, great video on last week's. Thanks, Dan. I keep some of my boxes, but what are some tools that you use in research and determine which sets you invest in? Thank you. Dan, I think this is an absolutely great question. And I feel like Lego investing has definitely been turning gears and a lot of people are gaining interest and are starting to, develop, more investment into Lego as an alternative. So I think this is a great question. Hopefully it can help justify for everybody. But I've honestly steered away from using tools and kind of getting too difficult, right? Like I think I'm just overall in the Lego market day in and day out that I've kind of saved myself the time and manner than worrying about all these tools and analytics. Trust me, there are some great tools out there that I think we'll even look at some of the other questions in later in today's video. But looking at past performing sets, I've just been in the market for 8 years now as a Lego investor and continuing to like over and flip sets and invest long-term and short-term in sets that I feel like I kind of have a good grasp and understand the markup of what sells and what doesn't. And I try to focus on that. So it's literally as cut and dry. I'm going to call it the Stud City test, right? Like, does it pass the Stud City criteria as far as a Lego investment? It just comes with nature, right? And some of those, to go into nature on analytics, it's all up here, right? Like, so those are the resources. What has failed, right? What has not sold well? And for me, it's been sets and themes that I don't know about. Example, I've not done well with Marvel. It's just something I don't know a lot about, and I just don't really have that audience or that market, or I just don't know enough there. Other miscellaneous themes like Lego of official themes. I think like Lego Hidden Side was one that I've mentioned in previous videos, so I don't have to go in detail today. But I know I got it on super duper clearance, but it was not a good Lego investment. Video is another good one. So stuff that I had focused on was like Lego Star Wars. I really understand the market. I understand that minifigures. Lego Ninjago is another great thing that I personally focus on that might not work for others, but it works for me. So I feel like the Stud City test is one that adapts for yourself. I know it's not the best answer there for analytics online, but it's just something I don't use. I literally just go off past performance and learning from over the years. Our next question here is going to come from Realm, and he says, do you think that figures should be displayed with these sets or not? And I think this is such a tough answer, and I think everybody is also different. I'll answer it in the form that Stud City displays his Lego minifigures and sets. Now, I will say I have all of my Lego sets here behind me that I love and adore, especially the modular buildings. I'm definitely a complete-ish in the fact that I have all of the Lego minifigures, for example, the corner garage. All of the minifigs for corner garage are in or outside the corner garage. All the minifigs for Assembly Square are inside or outside the Assembly Square. All the minifigs for Ninjago City Markets are inside or outside, and so on, right? Lego Star Wars has gone and grabbed a little bit of difference, right? It's like I've started collecting more minifigs where I place around my sets, but for the most part, if a minifig comes in a set, it is always displayed in the set. So I think that's one case for me, but this year in 2025, as I've got my Lego room, well established here, I've started expanding, right? I started to pull out Ninjago minifigures. So example, Ninjago City Docks, Ninjago City Markets, even that's the one I just talked about. I've left the figs in there for now, but I'm working on a collection of every single Lego Ninjago minifigure. At that point, I'm going to display those on my staircase or wall somewhere down here. I haven't decided exactly where I'm going to put it, but somewhere I can move it, maybe display it at conventions or something like that. But it is going to be every single Lego Ninjago minifigure ever made. And I think that's really cool, all unique figs, etc. So anyways, I think that's cool. And obviously I can't display the minifigs in the sets, or if I'm going to be a super completist and maybe potentially buy duplicates of the minifigs to display them in the set and on my wall, who knows, maybe that's something I do. But for now, I'm really just after one copy of minifigure. I don't need to collect every single Lego Ninjago set. I really don't care to do that, as I don't love every single set, but I feel like the minifigs I definitely have, something towards, right? Like I do want every single minifigure, and I just think it's a little bit more important to me. But I don't think it matters in my case. I think that's just one thing, and who knows, maybe I'll do that with Lego Star Wars later down in the road. But for now, I'm just just collecting the sets, and then I'll just display the minifigs with those sets. Question here is coming from Daniel B, and he says, what is the best way to get additional minifigs for Oompa Loompas, right? For the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory set. Willy Wonka was such an awesome set here from LEGO Ideas. Quite an expensive one, but not crazily expensive. It's $220 here, and I actually have the set literally right here, and he's referring to this minifigure. If you don't know, it's the Oompa Loompa. Now, this is definitely one that I would say is not worth it to buy 10 copies of the set for 2 Oompa Loompa minifigs, right? Like, I just don't think that would be worth it. Spend literally $2,200 if you bought 10 copies to get 20 Oompa Loompas. Like, that does not compute, right? Like, I don't think that makes sense. I think rather the best case scenario is going to be buying it from a reseller, live auction seller, Stud City over on eBay Live. I'll try and get you some Oompa Loompas. But no, seriously, I feel like Bricklink, eBay, live selling is going to be one of your best bets to get these Oompa Loompas. Obviously, you're not going to be able to pick an Oompa Loompa up for $5, $10. I don't know what the actually going rate is, but I know on on some of those platforms it'll probably be the cheapest because you have to spend $220 to get 2 of these, right? And like if you computed 10% of that's even $20 right there. But it makes sense why you're going to pay a little bit more, even if you can get like 2 Oompa Loompas for 30, 40 bucks. It probably just makes a little bit more sense. Of course, rewarding those sellers, whoever you're buying it from, for spending the time, parting it out, taking the risk, and of course, keeping the other parts and distributing all the other parts. So it makes sense, right? And definitely one of the cool minifigs for this year. Now, fortunate for us, I think these are the exact same. So with that being said, one is not more expensive than the other, and they are equally in price. So I think that will actually help bring down the cost of this minifigure, considering they're exactly the same. Our next question here is coming from Jody Evans. Says, how do you decide when to sell a LEGO investment? Two-part question here, but what market or collector signals tell you that has peaked versus one that has compounding value left? And I think this is another really good question talking about the LEGO investing, and it's very clear that you guys love the LEGO investments and want my insights to it. But determining a LEGO investment when to sell is kind of difficult, right? I think every set is difficult to, gauge, right? And every set is different is a better answer to that. So I don't think my answer here is going to be a one fit all, which is always tough. So take it with a grain of salt. But for me, it's always been how much that set is going to cap out at. And what do I mean by that? So a good example here I'm just going to throw out is the Lego Sanctum Sanctorum, right? That is an amazing Lego modular building, and one that I think has extreme room for expansion as far as growing in value. Now, I've only got, I think, maybe 1 or 2 copies left over that I invested in and that I have extra to sell off. Now, it's a great set. At MSRP, the set was, what, $350 or $250? And it's already climbed to $350. Now, it's $350, almost $400 Lego set. Is there a huge room to growth? And to that one, I think yes. Why do I think yes for that one rather than selling it off right now? Now, don't get me wrong, skinning and taking off some profits right now won't hurt anybody. Covering some profits has never hurt anybody, right? But essentially what that would mean is, why do I think it has room to grow? Well, it's the first Lego Marvel modular to retire. And as we see more retiring soon modulars, example, the Lego Daily Bugle, and maybe more that come out in the future, we'll see people want to pick up some of the old ones that are retired. And I think the first ones to go and retire have the biggest room for expansion. So that's a set that I think is like kind of a weird example. But also, I think the year shelf life there has the biggest growth, especially on the analytics side of things. So after a year of its retirement, we've seen the biggest pop in the price point and that it's gone in. So like after it hits that like 11, 12 months, that's where it's been a really good return on value. And at that point, try to liquidate those and then recycle and reinvest that money into other sets. And of course, with Lego retirement dates and being able to cycle that and flip those sets, it definitely opens up more room for Lego investments throughout the year, which I think is unique and something other communities don't have. I feel like the Lego community is very unique in that sense, and especially with retiring, right? We have all of these sets retiring at the basically December 20, at end of year December, right? Now, this year's a little bit different. We started seeing sets retire from August, September, October, November, right? Like we have seen so many sets sell out of stock, sold out, retired early, and it just offers more growth as far as Lego investing and just different and changing manners. But I think relevancy is currency. I have always said that, and when sets are hot in demand, it's, try to feed into the FOMO and maybe liquidate some of those sets, because I think it does make a little bit of sense. Our last question here is coming from Jim C, and he says, what software tools are you using to manage inventory, record purchase prices, tracking ROI, and selling activities across different platforms, etc.? whole lore here. Basically, hoping to get your input on what tools you're using to manage your Lego investment reselling activities. Thank you so much. Jim C, definitely have been collecting Lego since the early on. When I first started, I started inputting every single set I bought and a bought price into Excel, and then also my sell prices. Now, here in 2025, I've been extremely busy. I'm a one-stop shop, and I've done so many things to stay busy, like continuing to expand my horizons, right? I have no longer been doing that. Instead, what I do is on a larger scale, I keep a master buy and sell list, right? Like I see what I'm selling for as a whole and I see what I'm buying for as a whole. Rather than tracking sets individually, I am just tracking the whole as I buy and sell. And for me, it works. I don't think it's the best way. I can't see individually exactly what set I'm selling and what set I'm, buying at price tags. But the good thing is this guy does everything. So it's literally right up here. It's in this dude's mind. And that for me has been one of the best things because I know the ins and the outs. Like I've learned it so hardcore because I don't have help here. It's literally just me. So everything I buy, I know. And I remember probably 95% of exact pricing of everything I buy. Everything I sell, I also remember everything I sell for. So I know if I buy a Lego, bookshop at $180 when it was at $180 and it sold for $300, I'm like, oh, that's at you that $100 profit, right? Like in the greater scheme of things, obviously consider fees and stuff. But I think that general number has proven a rule of thumb for those. So rather than focus on the small stuff and the smaller numbers for me for individual sets, I'd rather have just shifted my mindset in the last 12 to probably 18 months and shifted into the bigger picture. And it's worked for me, at least in my perspective, but I think there's always more room to grow. I think tracking more numbers, and for me to do something like that, I would have to hire probably somebody full-time in order to track all those numbers because quite frankly, I just don't have time to do so. But no wrong answer there. I think there's so many horizons to expand on. And if you want to track, I think Excel is a great one. Of course, Brickset is a great place to, track and log your collection. I personally keep mine collection different. So I use Brickset and log my personal Lego collection. Everything that I will never sell is on there. And then anything I do sell, I don't even log it at all on those kind of platforms, other than if I do occasionally on Excel, but it's been so bad on there that I have just kind of given up on that point. So anyways, that's going to wrap up today's AMA. I hope you guys enjoyed today's videos. A lot on the Lego investing side things, which is always interesting. So hopefully you guys are really enjoying that. So please ask me any other questions. If I didn't answer your question in the comments below, make sure to re-ask it here and I'll try and address it in the next video. Aside from that, thanks so much for watching. Like today's video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next Wednesday.